implore the men in the world who have women that they say they care about, daughters that they are raising, that this is their issue too. I mean, for men to sit on their hands over this issue and trade out women's health for a tax break or whatever it is a sad statement about that man's level of value of the women in their life.
We're talking about how expensive it was to live in the White House. Go for it.
It's expensive to live in the White House.
Yeah.
As many people don't know. Sure. I mean, much is not covered. You're paying for every bit of food that you eat. You're not paying for housing and the staff in it, but everything, even travel. If you're not traveling with the president, if your kids are coming on a Bright Star, which is the First Lady's plane, we had to pay for their travel to be on the plane.
Michelle Obama entered with her signature air of celebrity, polished, poised, untouchable. But what unfolded on live television was anything but scripted. Charlie Kirk and Patrick Bet-David came armed with hard facts and razor-sharp commentary, slicing through the public persona with surgical precision. This wasn't a debate, it was a televised reckoning. Smiles gave way to scrutiny, and polished speeches were drowned out by uncomfortable truths. The segment hit like a political thunderclap, leaving even diehard supporters stunned. By the time the dust settled, the narrative had cracked and the internet was already ablaze.
Oh yes, no, she's at her complaining quotient, but I guess she's talking about abortion there as if women's health. But let me just be clear: not a single Trump voting male in the world is ever going to be won over by complaining Michelle Obama.
She looks. Why would you ever post this picture? Yes. No. The people were, and I'm actually not being funny. They were asking Barack, why would you ever post this picture? What part of Michelle's picture? Barack looks great. That is not a...
Can you close up on her, Rob?
Actually don't. But can you zoom out a little bit? Not for bad reasons. It's just she doesn't look good in that picture. Yeah. Sometimes you don't look good. So guess what you do when sometimes you don't look good? You ask and you say, hey, babe, you okay if I post this picture? No, use this.
Charlie Kirk strikes first and strikes hard. Charlie Kirk opened the segment like a man on a mission, cool, calculated, and clearly locked and loaded since the moment he first heard the word becoming. No theatrics, no wasted words. With surgical precision, he went straight for the ideological jugular. His tone remained calm, but the impact was explosive. Armed with nothing but the record and a smirk, Kirk let the facts speak for themselves, and watched as the carefully curated image unraveled under the weight of its own self-importance.
Through it, and one side note on Michelle Obama, can we just note how overrated she is? And like all the hype around Michelle Obama, she's gonna run for office, and she's just... I don't want to get into the aesthetics of all of it, but the presentation of her podcast is...
But let me ask you a question. Running for president campaign.
Let me ask you a question.
I don't get it.
Let me ask you a question. How much of becoming a president on the Democratic side, hear me out, how much of being a president on the Democratic side do you think is you getting picked or you saying, I'm going to be a president? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, how much of it do you think is the...
If you're enjoying this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a moment of truth-telling. Then came the hammer blow. Charlie Kirk didn't hold back, labeling Michelle Obama not as a former First Lady, but as a full-time influencer with only a part-time relationship to accountability. He pointed out that somewhere between the Netflix contracts and best-selling book tours, the basics got lost. Because Americans remember real things: policy, decisions, consequences, not just curated camera angles and empowerment speeches dipped in Instagram gloss.
I have mourned the dimming of that hope, and maybe you've experienced the same feelings, that deep pit in my stomach, a palpable sense of dread about the future.
It's so dark. And now she's saying, now I have hope because of Kamala Harris. The apocalyptic undertones of the Democrat Party is dramatic. This is their identity. This is their purpose.
Charlie Kirk's strength. He doesn't punch up or down, he punches straight through the nonsense. And when it comes to Michelle Obama, he made it clear, her public image is less a legacy and more a luxury mansion built on narrative gymnastics, with surgical precision. He reminded viewers that the self-proclaimed apolitical First Lady somehow left fingerprints on nearly every cultural flashpoint since 2009. From subtle nods to full-blown campaigns, her influence wasn't accidental, it was calculated.
All of a sudden, the Dems did flip in August and they put a Newsom Michelle combination, do you know what mainstream media would do with that? CNN, what Jimmy Fallon, Colbert, all these podcasts, the Oprah Winfrey, the NBA, LeBron.
Forget it.
Do you know what Taylor Swift, do you know what these guys would be doing? It would be bonkers. By the way, if it is Michelle and Newsom, it's going to be.
Subtlety, it seems, is Michelle Obama's least favorite accessory. As Charlie Kirk joked, she could write a children's book about vegetables and still manage to sneak in a jab about voter suppression. But this wasn't just about political disagreement. Kirk made that crystal clear. This was about pulling back the curtain on what he called performance art disguised as empathy. And then came the teardown. With the precision of a man, assembling mismatched IKEA furniture, Kirk dismantled the carefully crafted image of Michelle the dancing, sneaker-wearing, cooking show guest first lady who built a brand on being relatable. But Kirk wasn't buying it. He highlighted the glaring contradiction in trying to be both Oprah and a revolutionary icon. If Michelle truly represented the oppressed, he argued, she wouldn't be sipping imported tea on a $60,000 designer couch while lecturing working-class Americans about dreaming bigger. The disconnect, he said, is so wide, it needs its own zip code. But Kirk didn't stop there. True to form, he went deeper into the psychology, the symbolism, and the strategy. He painted Michelle's ascent not as a testament to courage or intellect, but as a masterclass in branding, a cultural icon manufactured through media magic, not grassroots grit.
It's just she doesn't look good in that picture.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't look good. So guess what you do when sometimes you don't look good? You ask and you say, hey, babe, you okay if I post this picture? No, use this one. Use that one. Use this one. So I don't even know why he posted the picture. You know, he has his own reasons for posting a picture. So a lot of people said, why are you even doing this? It's not cool for you to post a picture like this.
According to Charlie Kirk, the media doesn't just cover Michelle Obama idolizes her. They treat her, he said, the same way teenagers treat their favorite boy band, irrational, overprotective, and completely allergic to criticism. Question her. You're a sexist. Fact check her. You're a racist. Any deviation from praise, and you're cast as an ideological heretic. But Kirk didn't just critique, he carved. With savage clarity, he served Michelle's brand on a spit, garnished with a side of elite hypocrisy. Her best-selling memoir. Not a soul-bearing journey, he argued, but a focus-grouped, consultant-polished product designed to evoke emotion, while evading scrutiny. She's not relatable, Kirk declared. She's rehearsed. And that, he said, is the defining difference between a role model and a role player. Every tearful interview, every cleverly packaged anecdote about struggle, every subtle dig at America's character, it was all, in his view, an orchestrated performance. And just when it seemed he'd landed every punch, Kirk dropped the final hammer.
I mean, she's complaining. Right, again, I'm not trying to look in people's looks. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying the whole aura of it, to use a Gen Z term, is terrible. It's negative. It's just kind of her lamenting. And then she's obviously, there's problems with her daughters and all that. I don't want to get into that. But we built up on the right. Michelle Obama is going to be the hardest person ever to run against. And her book sold so many copies. And
Patrick Bet-David joins the fray and takes a wrecking ball to Michelle's media armor. Charlie Kirk may have been surgical. But when Patrick Bet-David took the mic, the tone shifted from sharp dissection to full-scale demolition. Kirk was the scalpel, Patrick was the sledgehammer. Kirk had just posed the uncomfortable question, what kind of person ascends to the highest levels of power, enjoys every privilege this country has to offer, and still finds moral satisfaction in shaming the very system that enabled her rise? His answer: Michelle's America isn't real, it's a hologram, a carefully projected dystopia that never seems to interfere with her private jet schedule. And then Patrick stepped in. He didn't approach the topic like a pundit. He moved like a cultural wrecking crew, with the air of a man who knows the audience is already halfway there. He tore through the glitzy wrapping around Michelle Obama's public image like a contractor, uncovering a termite infestation in a Beverly Hills mansion. His delivery, cinematic. You could practically hear popcorn popping as he smirked, shrugged, and said with his tone what needed no words. You already know, but let's just say it out loud. Patrick's secret weapon. The pause. He'd lull the audience into casual agreement, then drop a punchline, so sharp it bounced off the studio walls. His opening salvo was simple. Why?
I mean, look, first of all, just like the embedded kind of just implied chauvinism that all of our relationships in the Trump world are like we tell our wives exactly what to do. It's like, okay, no, we all have agency, okay? Secondly, I just have to comment on this. She's really lost a step. Just embedded in her language is like, she's really...
Patrick Bet-David torches Michelle's moral high ground, calls out performative virtue. Patrick Bet-David didn't just critique Michelle Obama, he dismantled the myth of her being America's moral compass. With biting clarity, he mocked the idea that a woman raking in corporate checks while lecturing the public about social justice could seriously claim the role of national conscience. If your version of morality involves finger-wagging at millions of hardworking Americans, he said, while cashing checks from the very corporations you pretend to oppose, maybe you're not the lighthouse of virtue you think you are. And he didn't stop there. Patrick questioned how someone could spend 8 years in the White House surrounded by unparalleled power, privilege, and influence and still emerge insisting on a narrative of with deadpan accuracy. He mimicked her signature delivery. The long pauses, the furrowed brows, the solemn tone wrapped in dramatic concern. No punchlines needed, the performance was its own parody. Listening to Michelle talk about struggle, he said, is like watching a billionaire complain about ATM fees. It doesn't land, it doesn't resonate, it doesn't even make sense. But in today's media climate, facts take a backseat to feelings. The absurdity gets applause because, as Patrick pointed out, challenging Michelle Obama isn't just controversial, it's practically taboo. In polite society, it's like questioning gravity. You simply don't.
And more energy and more intensity. It's like this Michelle Obama just looks broken. She's kind of doing the wine mom thing, and she's just kind of like, I'm just kind of meandering through life. Anyway, I'm not upset about
populated
it.
Populated like every 30 seconds with, what about me? No one asks about me.
Totally, exactly. Or and Megan, I know you'll take this in good stride, but she's like, we black women need to complain more. Yeah, that's the problem.
Patrick Bet-David exposes the manufactured myth of Michelle, the icon. Patrick Bet-David then turned his sights on what he called the establishment's strange obsession with elevating Michelle Obama to political royalty. But according to him, this elevation has little to do with genuine achievement and everything to do with narrative engineering. This isn't admiration, Patrick argued. It's projection. People aren't seeing Michelle for who she is. He said they're seeing what they want her to symbolize. She's not a leader. She's a carefully crafted mascot for a movement built on illusion. Like a TED Talk on empathy ghostwritten by a PR firm, Michelle's messaging is polished, palatable, and packed with applause-ready buzzwords, but light on actual intellectual substance. And yet, millions treat it as gospel. But Patrick wasn't content to just point out the spectacle. He challenged the audience to dig deeper, strip away the lighting, the branding, the standing ovations, and what's left. A figure who, he claimed, never truly took a risk, not with her power, not with her wealth, and certainly not with her comfort. All she ever gambled, Patrick concluded, was other people's trust.